60-year-old man who relies on medication to survive is actually a top killer with a bounty of 7.6 billion. Countless people have died at his hands, and even the world's top mercenary teams are terrified of him. He began learning how to assemble firearms at the age of 10. While other children were playing with mud, he was learning how to use a knife every day of the year. While others were experiencing their first loves during their naive youth, he was learning how to eavesdrop on intelligence until his ears bled. He was a Russian spy, assassinated important officials, and survived terrorist organizations. However, this man, renowned in serving South Korean conglomerates, was abandoned by a newly appointed young boss simply because he was aging and had developed cancer. Old things should be scrapped. Sometime after, Pietro opened a bookstore and led a relatively peaceful life, following his doctor's advice and taking various anti-cancer drugs daily. He dedicated 50 years of his youth to the company with no regrets, his only regret being that he lived most of his life without having a single photo of himself. However, today's visit by a high school girl broke this tranquility. The girl claimed she came to buy materials for her siblings' middle school studies, but when Pietro turned to search for them, she had already drawn a sharp knife, ready to attack him. Yet, with a single phrase, Pietro stunned the girl. "I've done dirty work as a killer for 50 years. How could I not smell the blood on you?" Just by meeting face to face, Pietro's sharp gaze made the girl realize that the one to die today would not be him, but herself. Suddenly, Pietro swiftly moved in front of the girl, but his reason for doing so was not to kill her, but because two killers had appeared on the bookshelf. Apparently, their organization's assassination plan included a plan B, which involved eliminating even those who failed. As Pietro tried to stand, the girl noticed he was bleeding from his torso. Pietro tried escaping with the girl in the tight space. Picking up a gun and swiftly turning around, he saw that the girl had already been taken hostage by the two men. Pietro wanted to save her, but his body wouldn't move the way he wanted it to. "Are you sure this is the Pietro?" A tall man in a trench coat, tattooed with a blue-ringed octopus and known as the #1 jiu-jitsu master in South Korea, codename Octopus, slowly approached. "The only reason I'm here is that my boss is very uncomfortable. Thousands of people are after you because your bounty is worth 7.6 billion won. That is the same amount on my account." "It is. It's the money you've worked so hard for your entire life. So, please make sure you die by my hand." Suddenly, they started beating Pietro while he was pinned to the bookshelf. Then he was thrown into the next corridor. Seemingly, Pietro was knocked out. "It's a small gift from me." Pietro had thrown a flashbang right in Octopus's face, which illuminated the bookstore in an instant. By the time they came to their senses, Pietro had already disappeared. He escaped to a park, dragging his wounded and old body in the rain. Despite once being a formidable figure, he could not resist his cancer. He reflected on his past, dedicated 50 years to the company without ever craving riches or glory, yet he mercilessly killed those who were about to die, which left him utterly unfulfilled. Moreover, the money in his bank account was an absolute must, as it was an inheritance for his most beloved. However, he ultimately fell in the park under the rain. Meanwhile, two subordinates were discussing the legend of this man. They racked their brains, but couldn't figure out how strong he must be to be regarded as a god. Suddenly, a sound interrupted them. "That was my first photo ever taken. I don't know what happened, but when I woke up, this body seemed full of vitality." The man with a ponytail stepped forward. "This is not a place you can just walk into. I know where I am. Take me to where Octopus is." "So, you are in our field as well, but that means you must die." The ponytail man swung his fist, but to his surprise, the young man had blocked it completely with one hand. The next second, the ponytail man's hand was crushed with pure grip strength. Behind him, the other subordinate flew into the young man while swinging a knife. Casually, the man was stopped in midair. 5 blows was given to him in an instant. To the side, the ponytail man picked up a knife. "Where did you come from?" But the young man spoke unhurriedly. "Killers are divided into 3 ranks. Third-rate killers use knives, simple and fast. Second-rate killers are strong and skilled in punches and kicks. First-rate killers, however, can use anything in the world as a weapon." Seeing the man holding an octopus leg as a weapon, the ponytail man felt extremely humiliated and charged at him without hesitation. In moments, the knife was disarmed with a whip of the tentacle. Then, the tentacle was wrapped around the ponytail man's neck. With pure strength, the ponytail man was swung up and over towards a boiling pot of soup, crashing into it with a big splash. Both men were incapacitated in just a few moments. The man slowly picked up the photo. "This was a good shot, but it's a pity this person is already dead. Now, a new Pietro has returned, young once again. Don't come looking for me. I'll find you." The first thing he did after returning to youth was to check his body in the mirror, because during the rescue of the high school girl, he had been shot in the abdomen, but now the wound on his belly had healed, and even the cancer cells devouring his life had disappeared. This young body retained the experience and skills of his 50-year career as a killer. The old Pietro they were looking for might never be found, but the new Pietro, now unrecognizable, could do anything he wanted with this young body. Just then, despite the no smoking sign in the restroom, 2 old Westerners were smoking away. Pietro approached and simply advised, "This is a non-smoking area." The big man replied by slapping Pietro's face. "Get lost. I'm in a good mood, so I'm letting you go." However, Pietro Pietro chose not to retaliate. Instead, he walked to the restroom door. As everyone else left, he locked it from the inside. Even though he is now a 20-year-old young man, he still has the heart of a 60-year-old. He wanted these two to understand the consequences of disrespecting elders in Korea. The big man had no interest in listening to his nonsense, caring little for talk of respecting elders. At that moment, Pietro delivered a swift liver punch, simultaneously targeting the throat with his left hand at great speed. By the time the big man realized, his throat was already crushed. The big man fell instantly. The tanned man stood frozen, raising his knife, unaware that he was facing a top killer. He tried threatening Pietro, but in response, Pietro lectured him that he was holding the knife the wrong way. The tanned man charged at Pietro, but was swiftly countered, seemingly getting stabbed by the knife. Just then, the knife was now in Pietro's hand. The tanned man screamed in pain, thinking he had been stabbed. "I didn't stab you. If I did, you would have died 3 times already. Who exactly are you?" Pietro stepped forward and grabbed his shoulder. "You'd better mind your own business about the matters of the underworld. If you knew who I am, you wouldn't leave here alive." Facing Pietro's chilling menace, the tanned man was so frightened that he couldn't utter a word, and his pants were already soaked with urine. By then, Pietro had already changed into the big man's clothes, which surprisingly fit him well. However, at this moment, he began to worry because his phone showed that the money in his bank account had already been emptied. He told them before that that money accumulated over 50 years of his career as a killer was not to be touched. Pietro remembered his past. He too had grown up in the honor orphanage. Over 50 years, the orphanage, under the guise of caring for orphans, had transformed into the Glory Club, now a huge cartel that spread its influence in numerous political places. Although it was the company that raised him, now he had to destroy this business empire step by step. Meanwhile, Octopus was at a warehouse face to face with his target. The target was surprised he came alone. "No need to bring anyone else if it's just you. You Glory Club members are too greedy. Let's just finish this quickly, but I set up a festival just for you." Then suddenly, numerous muscular men came out of the shadows. The target knew that Octopus was not one of the disciples, so his arrogance was off-putting. "Treat our guest well." As his words fell, all of the mercenaries charged at Octopus. Just then, the target was on the ground shaking. These formidable men were easily dispatched. Octopus was wrapped around one of the men as if he had no bones, choking them out blue, his head locked at a 180-degree angle, as if their focus was never meant to be divided. Finally, Octopus charged at his target proper, with his body facing the other way. Before long, Octopus and the girl returned to the headquarters base. Octopus knew that a warrant would soon be issued, and countless people would begin searching for Pietro. He hoped the girl could find Pietro's whereabouts, but the girl, remembering how Pietro had saved her, had changed her view of him, yet she had no choice but to agree to Octopus's request. In the VIP restaurant of the branch, they were not supposed to receive external guests at this time. "Do you have a meeting with us?" "No, but I have a grudge about my card, worth about 7.6 billion. Hearing this figure, Octopus first smiled slightly, then showed a sinister expression, instructing the waiter to close the door immediately. Octopus was curious how this young man knew about Pietro, wondering if he could be Pietro's son, but in his memory, Pietro had always been alone. For now, if he didn't explain clearly, he would not be allowed to leave alive. Octopus raised 2 fingers. "You have 2 choices. 1. Tell me where Pietro is, then you can leave. 2. Get shot in the head and die here. There is a third option, but those who hear it have never survived. Option 3. I am Pietro." Hearing this, Octopus felt he was being mocked. What nonsense was this silly young man talking about? Octopus declared that if Pietro did not tell the truth, he would taste the bullet. "How are you related to Pietro? If you really want to know, come and kill me." Before the waiter could fire his weapon, something pierced through his neck at blinding speed. The waiter dropped dead, revealing a chopstick in his neck, piercing the major artery precisely. The girl was astonished by Pietro's skills. What was more surprising was that Pietro looked about her age. It would be hard to find such a skilled young man throughout South Korea. However, this move intrigued Octopus. Such skill is indeed impressive, but still, you must die. Octopus quickly drew his gun and shot at Pietro, but Pietro quickly blocked the shots with the table. This ain't a movie. A table can't stop bullets. A bright red liquid slowly flowed on the floor, leading Octopus to mistake it for blood. However, upon closely inspecting it by the table, he realized that the red liquid was just chili oil. He hadn't seen where Pietro had gone. While searching for Pietro's traces, suddenly, Pietro appeared above a pillar, his mouth bulging with something. Suddenly, Pietro spat a burst of liquid onto Octopus' face. While Octopus was blinded, Pietro attacked with a fluid combination attack, ending with a blow to the chin. He's too fast. Before Octopus could even think, Pietro was grasping at him already and twisted his neck 180 degrees, breaking it. And Octopus fell without even having a chance to retaliate. Looking at the fallen Octopus, Pietro felt a hint of pity. Just then, Octopus's pupils dilated suddenly, flashing back to his youth. He was taught that if there was a stronger enemy in front of him, that he should attack when their guard is down. The do-or-die tactic. Suddenly, he grabbed Pietro's foot. Using his extreme flexibility, he locked his critical joints until they broke. The force tightened more and more, either leading to suffocation or death death by broken bones. Do you get how I survived this long? Die. But the next second, Octopus was stunned. Standing before him was an unharmed Pietro, and what he had grabbed was the body of his subordinate. It turns out he had mistaken the two due to his impaired vision. At this moment, Octopus finally realized that the man before him far surpassed the 12 disciples of the Glory Club. Octopus frantically begged for mercy, trying to make a deal with Pietro. He grabbed the girl. You can take her. Whatever you ask her to do, she will obey. She's inexperienced, but she's useful. It's a deal. Octopus was thrilled and quickly moved away from Pietro. The do or die tactic. Octopus stopped in his tracks after hearing this. The greatest threat in battle is showing your back to the enemy. Hearing this, he froze. It was a very familiar admonition. As a child, Octopus had a mentor who was one of the 12 disciples. The mentor had taught him the do or die tactic. Utilize the moment your enemy's guard is down. Now, he recalled the mentor's demeanor and expression, which were identical to this young man's. Pietro, do you remember what I said? The people who learn who Pietro is, none survive. Pietro charged at Octopus and used his own technique against him, twisting and turning his body beyond his own limits. Octopus was mangled in the air as Pietro landed. Not long after, atop a building, a man was reporting, Octopus is dead. All surveillance footage there has been erased, and no trace was left at the scene. Things are getting interesting. Notify all members of the Glory Club. I'm offering 7.6 billion as a reward, and will commence a full-scale pursuit of Pietro in 1 hour. As a top killer, Pietro perfectly disposed of several bodies, and then walked onto the street. People looked up as every high-rise building displayed wanted posters for Pietro, and even the flyers distributed by staff were filled with his pictures. What seemed like a harmless advertisement was actually the Glory Club's worldwide manhunt order. Yet, Pietro was unflustered facing this, as he was on a mission of revenge with a completely new appearance. Although he was alone at the moment, many tasks required assistance, so he thought of someone. Despite that person's pet and some behaviors making him uncomfortable, Pietro decided to seek the person out. Pietro then went to a public restroom crowded with homeless people. However, there was a hidden compartment there. He barely found and pressed the button by moonlight, opening a door that led to an underground passage. Below was a room of dazzling splendor, a stark contrast to the simplicity above. Suddenly, his throat was pressed by a spike wielded by a woman with a German shepherd by her side. The woman was blind, though her eyes couldn't see. Her nose was exceptionally sensitive. She could clearly smell that this was a young man without the scent of alcohol and not a local homeless person. Most importantly, she could sense a strong bloodlust emanating from him. Pietro didn't want to fight her, just wanted her to calm down. The woman mistook him for an assassin from the Glory Club. She swung her cane around, but Pietro managed to dodge every attack. But still, Pietro was backed into a wall.
And that's where we leave off. Plot twists dropped, power levels shattered, and the stakes higher than ever. If your heart's racing and you're hungry for more, don't just sit there. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next mind-blowing recap. This is Granular Manhwa Recap, where every panel hits harder, and every episode keeps you on the edge. Stay sharp, stay hyped, and I'll see you in the next one.